Hi folks, a few of you have suggested on the forum that I might do a movie covering the glass clothwork on the Chipmunk. So first off, I thought I'd do a quick movie as to the materials and the parts and components that I use when I'm doing any resin work. Okay, first off, let's have a look at some of the tools. I'll start from the left hand side of the bench here and then we'll work our way across. Okay, latex gloves, pretty straightforward really. I buy a box of 100 fairly cheaply, so makes it very easy. Just slip 2 gloves on, do your work, take them off, straight to the bin. Really easy. That's for keeping your hands clean. Kitchen towel, get through loads of this, so you'll need some of that. You'll need some pots to mix the resin in. So here I'm just using these sort of dessert pots. They work very well. Also you'll need something to stir the resin, and for that I have some sort of epoxy stirring sticks or whatever you want. That's fairly straightforward. Right, so for applying the resin, these are by far the best, and they're actually Poly-C Jenny brushes, and they're made by Jen Manufacturing in the USA, and they're effectively foam, and there's a thin piece of plastic inside to give them some resiliency. They call those a Jenny brush. They're good for varnishing and lacquer work and stuff like that. Brilliant for resin work. If you use it on polyester resin, however, please bear in mind that the styrene in polyester resin will probably melt the foam. So really it's for epoxy resins. Okay, what else have we got? We've got the resins, we'll talk about those in a moment. There is a cheap alternative to the Jenny brushes, and that's these Crafter's Choice foam brushes. Same sort of thing, but not nearly as good a quality. And you'll find that the foam bit actually tears quite easily, so they don't last anywhere near as long. But they're much cheaper and work out about 10p a brush, so you can just chuck those in the bin as well. The Jenny brushes get chucked as well, so it doesn't really matter. Poly-C. Now, how on earth did that get in here? We'll not be using that, that's for sure. And while we're evicting a few suspects, this is polyester resin. We don't want to be using this either. Right, so what have we got left? Let's have a chat about dispensing the resin. That's probably the next bit. With some of the resins, such as this L285 resin, which is a 2-part epoxy resin, there's a catalyst and there's the resin itself. This is done by Phil Clark at Fight Racers. Great stuff. And it's a 2.5 to 1 by weight. So that one is quite critical, that you get the mix by weight right. And to make sure that you get it right, because I have got it wrong in the past and you end up having to wash it all off with acetone, is I bought a set of these scales. Okay, and they read down to 0.1 of a gram. Okay, this particular one, it was only about £10 I think. This one is a Triton T2, reads down to 0.1 of a gram, and that means getting the resin to catalyst mix perfect. Now the old stuff that used to come from Phil Clark at Fighter Racers came in tins, and if you get a product that comes in a tin, like the old Fighter Racers did, then I find these hand soap dispensers are brilliant. Make sure you get all the soap out, I hasten to add. Here are my old stock of LS285 and LS285 catalyst, and you can see they're just put into soap hand dispensers, and it makes it very easy to put a mixing cup on the scales, measure out how much resin you want, zero it, and then work out how much catalyst you want to add to it. That's the Fight Racers L285 resin, or LS285. I think it's L285, not LS. I think I'm maybe mislabeled that. The other resin I use quite a bit is this one, and it's the West Systems 106 with a 206 hardener. Now the numbering of the hardener denotes how quickly that the resin goes off. The 206 I find is a good one. It's a slow one. It takes a good 24 hours before you can really handle the part enough to sort of sand the edges to get the edges to get the excess cloth off. So 105 resin and 206 hardener. They work very well. Now these don't mix by weight, they mix by volume. So all you do is one full pump of this one and one full pump of that, stir it, and away you go. So it's very easy. These nozzles are an extra £25, but I have found that they don't ever seem to clog, and you can just keep using them, you know, indefinitely. You don't have to dismantle it and clean it or anything like that. Just leave them like that. As you can see, there's a fair bit of dust up there from being around for a while. Okay, so that's the West Systems epoxy resin. That's the L285 Fight Racers epoxy resin. Right, now we'll come to the materials that I use. Typically, whether you can see that, this is the glass cloth I would use on sort of anything up to a 1/5 scale wallboard. It's 25 grams per square metre, and there's 5 metres of lightweight glass cloth there, so it's 5 metres by 1 metre from Phil Clark at Fight Racers. Here's a bit of an offcut from the last piece, and you can see how very light it is. It also will conform really easily to a shape, and once it gets wet it really does form nicely over the surfaces. Okay, so that's the glass cloth that we'll be putting on top of the surface. Another material we'll be using, might not, depends. I definitely would use it if it was a large model, but as the Chipmunk's not terribly large, there may not be a need to use this. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about it. I might show you how to do it first, and then you can decide for yourself whether or not it's worth doing. This is pure polyester. It's not got much give in it. It doesn't shape well. None of that. No forming to it. Even when it's wet, it doesn't get any better. It's pure polyester. And the very important thing about polyester is nothing will stick to it, especially epoxy. Okay. So this is pure polyester. It's also known as peel ply, which is what I'll call it, peel ply. And we put this on top of the wet glass cloth, lay it down straight over the glass cloth, rub it in so that all the excess resin flows up through into this, and then we let it dry, and then once it's dry we peel this off, and it brings all the excess resin off with it. And that's peel ply. It's about 60p a metre. Get it on eBay. Here's a roll of the stuff. So, okay. Finally, just talk to you about cutting the glass cloth, because glass cloth, bit of a tongue twister, is a bit of a nightmare to cut, and I find that the best way to do it is using one of these. I think the fabrics people and the people that are dressmakers and upholstery people and stuff like that use these, and it's a self-sharpening wheel, and it's electric. Okay. And that whizzes through the glass cloth like you wouldn't believe. This is a Bosch Zeo. Was about 30 quid, and is it worth it? If you're going to do a fair bit of glass clothing, I would say it definitely is, because it's self-sharpening. You'll find that you're sharpening the scissors every time you do a bit of epoxy work, and eventually your scissors will vanish. So, and they literally do go blunt very quickly cutting glass cloth. Okay, well that's all the materials covered. So if you'd like to join me a little bit later, we'll actually put some of this onto the model and I'll show you the techniques involved. Thank you.